number 65 and number 71, and the need to limit the community spread of COVID-19. Members of the Planning Commission will participate by electronic means, and the meeting will be live streamed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the members and citizens of Gallatin. I'll remind the public that this is not a voting agenda tonight. This is just a work session to review items that will come before us in a couple of weeks. But we will hold one vote tonight, and that is I'll ask all of the members of the commission to approve holding this meeting by electronic means, and we'll combine that with a roll call. So when Marianne calls your name, please respond with present and approve if you approve of holding the meeting by electronic means. Marianne, will you please take the roll call?
Chair Pereira.
Present and approved.
Vice Chair Harris. Mr. Wilson.
Present and approved.
Councilwoman Love.
Here and approved.
Dr. Orgain. Mr. Strouser.
Present and approved.
Ms. Hibbler.
Present and approved.
Passes.
All right. Thank you, Marianne. We'll proceed with the first item on the agenda, which is item number 1, Kennesaw Farms, Lot 5 and 6, an amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan. Jillian, will you present this, please?
Yes. Next slide, please. This lot is located at the corner of Kennesaw Boulevard and Nashville Pike. This is on the side of Kennesaw where you have the TriStar Health and the new dentist office. These are the remaining 2 lots on that side. The development that is proposed is for one building to span those 2 lots with adjoining parking and a dumpster. Next slide, please. Again, this is in a very similar style to what the other out parcels have done. Keep in mind, this is 2 out parcels that they will combine as one. We have the sidewalks that will connect into the existing sidewalks on either side. And then there is also the standard Kennesaw fence that they will have to work around with landscaping and things like that. We did have some comments throughout the document for some cleanup, particularly on the landscaping plan. Next slide, please. And the applicant has some pending stormwater maintenance issues on the site that the developer will need to work through with our stormwater team. So those are in discussions now. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The architecture is equestrian in nature to match the Kennesaw Farms master plan. The architecture will be finalized once approved by the overall developer, Southeastern Builders of Kennesaw Farms. And the applicant should be on the call to answer any questions.
Thank you. If we have a representative for the applicant, please state your name for the record.
Chairman Puryear, this is Andy Leith, representing the applicant, and don't really have anything to add to what Ms. Jillian said. We're working with Southeastern right now and with stormwater to address the concerns.
Andy,
Yes, ma'am.
just a question. I know where the TriStar Medical Building is, and then I think there's another building right beside it. Is this one going to be right in a row with those other 2?
So this one is at the entrance of Kennesaw Boulevard. If you turn in, it's on the left. It's right beside the dentist office.
So it's kind of in a row though with the others.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's just my question. Thank you.
Commission members, I wanted to let you know that this building is proposed, as Jillian mentioned, on what is now identified as 2 separate lots. And so this building would, in this master plan, will be combining the 2 lots into a single lot. So this building is going to be quite larger. It's going to appear and be larger than the other buildings along this corridor because it's essentially 2 lots, 1 building spanning 2 lots. It'll become 1 lot with a replat, but it'll be much longer than the buildings. It'll be roughly the same depth off of the road as the existing buildings there, the TriStar Medical Facility and the dentist office, but it'll be much longer. So I want you to be aware that there were two buildings, separate buildings proposed on the property before, one on each lot. Now we're going to have one large, long barn-looking shaped building.
Well, I'll just comment that under the circumstances and under the overall plan where they've made everything look like, equestrian, I think it's kind of in keeping if it looks like a long barn. I mean, I want to commend them. The mini storage buildings in back, that really fits in well with the property, considering that they're mini storage buildings. And I think this kind of accomplishes the same thing. I really like the architecture.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Any other questions or comments?
Bill, are you concerned that it's going to look out of place being so long next to the other two smaller buildings?
I don't know, because of the architecture, if you look out of place, it will look much larger, more like a strip center type of arrangement versus the individual office buildings that you have there now, and they'll have multiple tenants, most likely in this building as well. So from that standpoint, it will look scale and massing compared to the other buildings that have been approved and built along that corridor. It would be much larger. But again, they're one story with a hip roof and, brick facades. So I'm trying to think of the Comer Barn, if you're familiar with that, further west. Even though it's in poor condition, it is a long building. It has a long facade that face, even though it's quite a distance off of the road, it is a longer, larger building than most of the others that you see up and down Nashville Pike.
Hey, Bill,
But
is
it's
there
not,
any, go ahead. Is there any staff concerns with the length of the building? And then the other question I have, is it the same or similar height in other buildings, or will it drastically look different?
no, it'll be the same height roughly as the others. The length of the building is not prohibited either by the master plan, but it does require combining two lots into a single lot to accommodate this building.
Dustin, can you go, I think back one or two slides that shows, okay, it doesn't show it. But what the architecture is indicating is that the middle and the ends may look a little bit like they're pushed in or out to help break up that massing. So it's not 600 linear feet of just one flat facade, but it would have a little bit of push pull to it. And we can work with both the applicant and the master developer to make sure that that's communicated more clearly in the drawings.
Same building materials and bricks as the other two buildings?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, seeing none, then I think generally it looks good. So we'll see you back in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item 2, which is the Toyota of Gallatin expansion, amended preliminary master development plan, revised final master development plan. Dustin, will you present this, please?
Yes, sir. So this is an amended PMDP/FMDP for Toyota of Gallatin. They're going to come in and they're going to add 3 lots along Grassland Place into this master plan. This is a overview of what they want to do. As you can see, the proposed building expansion is on the back side of the existing dealership. They're adding quite a bit of parking in, and they're adding a new retention system. The new expansion will consist of a service shop that takes up the majority of it, a quick lube area, and a wash and dry bays on the north side there. The elevations consist of metal wall paneling So they are asking for an alternative architecture plan. But this will be on the backside and won't really be visible from Nashville Pike. The retention system that they're proposing is an underground system called Chamber Max. It uses underground infiltration for the stormwater. There was some confusion with the submission process, or something went wrong, and we haven't had much time to review these plans, these drainage calculations. So there could be a delay getting all of that done with stormwater. We're hoping for a full submittal this week to get everything kind of straightened out. There was some confusion. Most of the parking will be inventory for the dealership, so that requires less landscaping, but they are going to provide some landscaping islands within the parking. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant present?
Dennis Reeder, your line has been unmuted.
Yes, I'm here, Dennis Reeder.
Dennis, do you have anyone else with your team on the call tonight?
Jason Blakeman should be on.
Okay. Jason, your line's been unmuted.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just in a little bit of clarification on what was presented there, the owner has not yet secured the lot closest to National Tire and Battery on Grassland there. So it's just the two lots that are involved with this so far. That's one reason why the parking and the underground detention system are shown on those, the two vacant lots closer to the southeast there. I think there's still some negotiations going on that third lot, but that's not going to be a part of this submittal. We'll have to come back and do that if he ever is able to secure that property.
Right.
Commission members, I do want to point out, y'all may remember an earlier plan that showed some land, subsurface detention area in the rear of the property, and now they're moving it to the easterly portion of this other property that they're looking to acquire. Basically, it's about the same though, with they were able to make the buffer yards more uniform with this plan by adding those 3 lots. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a condition of approval of the previous plan that the northerly driveway adjacent to Grassland Drive be removed because of its proximity to the intersection of Grassland Drive and Nashville Pike. So we'll need to look at that as well. That would still leave them with the southerly driveway that's shown on this drawing here, just adjacent to the north arrow there. So that gives them that access to and from Grassland Drive. I believe it, they're not showing on at least this plan. They might in a future plan another access to Grassland Drive if they desire one. They should be able to get one on the new properties that they're acquiring if that's what they want to do. But I believe everything, the building and so forth, is a little bit different here too. They had some expansion with the other buildings that are a little bit different now, and perhaps you want to ask some questions about that.
I'll open the floor to questions.
Bill, which buildings are different now? Up in the existing dealership?
So Councilwoman Love, in the fall, we approved a FMDP for this site, which called for an expansion to the rear of the property. So it was a multi-phase development that had what's currently labeled as wash and dry and quick lube a little further up on the building. This plan moves everything to the back of the building in just one expansion versus what was previously a 2-phase expansion on the front. And then the parking configuration in the rear of the site, as Bill mentioned, has been adjusted to better reflect the conditions of adding these 2 lots on grassland, and to be able to move the underground detention over there versus where it previously was just right behind the building.
Thanks, Josh.
Not a problem.
Yeah, y'all
Any other
remember they were looking to essentially reconstruct most of the building. That apparently is not the option at this point that they're considering. They were going to expand the building in the front and save the middle portion and then build additions all around it. So now this only shows that they're keeping the existing building and adding all the service and wash and dry area in the back.
There's a future phase 2, Bill, that will be coming.
Okay, that's not part of this initial, no, that's one you'll consider later as a future amendment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, that's good. That's fine.
Seeing no other questions, I'll close this item and we'll see you back in a couple of weeks. Seems to look good. We'll move on to item number 3, which is Meadow Glen at Fairway Farms, Section 3A, final plat. Sharon, will you please present?
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
All right. This is a final plat for Meadow Glen at Fairway Farms. If you remember, we came in December to renew their preliminary plat because it was about to expire. They're only good for a year. And now they're still waiting on more of their FEMA information to come through. And instead of waiting on it and stopping everything, they want to break phase 3 up into 3A and 3B. And if you look at this short stretch of street, one side is just regular lots, 7 of them. That's the ones they're wanting to plat. The other side, the other 8 lots or 9 lots, however many are there, they all have the flood lines running through them. So they want to go ahead and do the first 7.
Thank you, Sharon. Do we have a representative for the applicant present?
If you are with CSDG, please use the raise your hand function. There we go. We got Brad. Go ahead, Brad. And Brad, if you are calling in, if you could let me know the number by hitting *9 on your phone.
There, I think I got it.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, this is Brad with Civil Site Design Group, or CSDG. Sharon kind of hit everything on the head there. Everything, we're just waiting on FEMA approval for those last 9 lots, but 7 lots we'd like to go ahead and get platted.
Brad, could you please give your full name?
Brad Snyder.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I'll open the floor to questions. Seeing none, I'll just say this looks pretty procedural. Doesn't seem to be a problem, just the phasing order. If there are no other questions, I don't want to cut anybody off. All right, well then we'll see you back in a couple of weeks. We'll move on to item number 4, which is Winston Place, a preliminary master development plan. Dustin, will you please present this item?
Yes, sir. So this is a PMDP, and actually an amendment of a PMDP that was formerly the new Long Hollow Baptist Church location on 109 south of Red River. It was zoned MRO at that time. The applicant is going to retain that zoning, but is now proposing 80 single-family home lots, 4 rights of way, and in 2 phases. And this is going to include an extension of Wedgewood Drive across 109 and an extension of Summerlin to the south. And they are seeking several variances, one for the lot size, to have lots of 4,000 square feet, for lot width, for a reduced side yard, and also a reduced buffer to the north, from a type 30 to a type 20, which I would like a little clarification on from the applicant why that change is being requested. It features good connectivity, as you can see, to the surrounding areas. They've included some suggested improvements to 109 to improve the accessibility. We have a few minor design issues with some things that we've sent them, but everything else looks pretty good. So I'm not sure if the applicant is here for comment.
Brad, are you representing this item as well? We also have Lee Miller.
Yes. Yep. This is Brad Snyder with CSDG. So I think the one question was about the buffer to the north. So that actually there's some different zoning adjacent. Some of the properties call for a type 30, some call for a type 10. We thought it'd be best to do kind of an average, get the type 20 buffer yard in there. That helps with getting the spacing of the lots, and then also allows for those lots 1 through 14 to be a little bit larger to better connect in with the existing community. But everything else, just work through staff comments.
All right. Open the floor to questions and discussion.
Commissioners, I just want to point out and you can clearly see here the differences in the lot sizes from the existing subdivisions that are platted to the north of this, and the lot sizes that they're proposing within this development, which are noticeably smaller. They are requesting some exceptions to allow for smaller lots, and you might want to consider those reasons for that, and what kind of trade-offs are we getting if they are asking for these exceptions? What's the extent of these exceptions, and what are we getting? What's the city getting in exchange? Now, they do show as consistent with our long-range plan, they do have a greenway corridor identified adjacent to the creek on the south side of the property. But other than that, you might want to address some of those exceptions.
Can I say something?
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
This is Adam Green. I'm the developer.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Thank you. So thanks for considering this. When we worked on the site with the folks from Long Hollow Baptist Church, it was obviously something they wanted to build on, and then they've sort of changed what their plans are. One of the things that CSDG brought up was that the neighbors that are behind lots 1 through 14 we were making an assumption that they would not be particularly happy with lots that were smaller backing up to their property. So 2 things. Number 1, yes, you saw the lots are bigger. And number 2, if you see that hash behind the lots, I'm not sure what that is. If it's a berm or it's something, or it's landscaping. I don't remember what it is that we're putting in there, but we're putting a buffer in there so that it blends to the extent that it can. The idea that we liked the opportunity to put the greenway in. I like putting them in. I wish I could do more in this subdivision. I mean, it doesn't look very big, but if you look next to lot 39, there's an open space there. We may even, I haven't decided yet, but we may figure out a way to make that area a little bigger, put some Adirondack chairs out there and build a couple of fire pits. That's also where I think the mailboxes will have to go. But we're working through all that now. As far as what it looks like coming in on 109, again, you'll see those hashes in there. So that'll be some form of landscaping along with some monument signage for the subdivision. The builder that is buying the lots their name is Smith Douglas Homes. They are a regional builder based in Atlanta. They build in several areas all over the area. They're well established in Nashville. I happen to know their president and their director of land operations. And I guess to quote the old Ford Motor Company thing, for Smith Douglas, quality is job one. And right from the way that the houses are built all the way through to what they look like when they are done. So despite the fact that we are asking for smaller lots, given the economics of putting this in, I think that you will find that, and it may not seem that way to you on paper, I think you will find that the subdivision will look a lot less dense than the lots may appear to make it that way. So, and I just wanted to introduce myself, and I'll give you all a laugh for the evening. I hope this doesn't disqualify what we're doing, but they needed a name for the subdivision. And so, because we were going to use something with Long Hollow, and that's been used too much. So we came up with Winston Place. Winston is my cat. So that's about as far as that goes. But thank you for your time and your consideration. We're looking forward to being in Gallatin, and we're excited about it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Green. I'll open the floor to questions and comments. Well, I'll lead off. I'll have to really study I'm assuming we'll get architecturals with this. Really have to study it, but I have concerns about the 4,000 square foot. So staff, will there be architectural submittals required for this?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, they've submitted. Are you talking about these elevations here, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's what I was getting to.
There's some that we do take issue with, but they've said they're going to help. They're going to work with us on that.
Okay. I'm assuming that with a 4,000 square foot lot, they're going to be asking for 5-foot side yard setbacks.
Yes, sir.
So I think we've already addressed this in other neighborhoods where they've gone down to really narrow lots. Let me change the wording. We will require that the air conditioner units, the HVAC units, be in the back of the building, not on the sides of the building.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Every every home built in the city of Gallatin as of about 2 years ago is required to submit a stamped plot plan, and each one of them showcase where the HVAC unit is. So if they are in the side yards in these subdivisions with the narrow side yard setbacks, those are rejected, and the HVAC is redesigned. The HVAC unit is redesigned to not be in the side yard setbacks or PUDEs.
Okay. One of the things I want to look at then, if we consider narrow lots, is I want to study the topography, the topo map on this to see what kind of elevation grade change there is. Those really, really narrow side yard setbacks, you know, when you only have 10 feet between buildings, they only have the potential to work if it's a relatively flat site. If there's much slope to it, it's almost impossible to get proper drainage between the structures. So anyway, my concern is with the 4,000 square foot lots and what the ramifications that has. I'll stop talking and open it up. Whoever else has comments. Anyone?
Can I make one more comment?
Well,
or no? Okay, no problem.
You can make. No, that's all right. If you can make it real brief.
All I wanted to say to you was you're absolutely right, and I know that the 4,000 is a concern, and of course you're going to consider that, and that's fine. But you're absolutely right. If you have much in the way of topography, when you're going that close to one another, it runs into a problem. We've all seen it. Fortunately, the reason that we're doing this or coming along this way is that pretty much the site's as flat as a pancake. It really is. There's no trees on it. I mean, I can't even tell you that there is any significant roll to it. And whatever is rolled, whatever is, differences in the topo, however, minor that may be, is a question of moving dirt around to make it flatter than a pancake, which it pretty much already is if you happen to drive by it and see it. And I'm sorry I'm talking so much, but
that's all right. Thank you, Mr. Green. We'll study that carefully. Other questions or comments, concerns?
What is the other subdivision that's nearby called?
Across the road?
I can't picture where this is.
To the north is Red River Road. I believe the subdivision is called Fairway Heights. Summerlin Drive and Red River Road across from the Bowles Farm property. So it is just south of all of that.
So it's across from Twin Eagles, I think, across Red River Road from there, on the other side of Red River.
On the other side of 109 is Twin Eagles and the older one, Eagles Way, Eagles Point. I forget the name of the subdivision, but it's been built out for a couple of years.
Fairway.
When I looked at that other map that showed the diagram with the houses, I much prefer the lots 1 through 14. And then across, I'm assuming that across those hash marks from 1 through 14 are the lots for the other homes that you were talking about. Is that right?
Yes.
Because even 1 through 14 don't look like they're nearly as the size of those over there. And I really don't like this 4,000 square foot lot business. And I mean, I just am not thrilled with having such tiny lots in Gallatin.
So Josh, I'll ask a question on the development that we just looked at a couple of weeks ago across the way, the 618 acre property. that large section of residential homes that would be closest to this, what size were those lots so that we can get a feel for scale and keep things consistent?
Jillian, chime in. They were sized to be larger lots than what was going to be developed on the interior of the site, but I don't remember offhand what size the lots fronting on Red River Road were going to be.
Oh, they were the ones right off of Red River Road.
The ones that were fronting on Red River Road.
Oh, they were pretty large. They were like large estate lots.
Oh, yeah, Jillian, those were the estate lots, but they weren't typical. What were the,
No,
but what were the size of the other lots in that big block?
they had a wide range. Let me see what we actually.
Yeah,
Because they did a PRD, which you can kind of, you have a lot more leniency with that. So they had, their single family lots were about 5,000 square feet, it looks like, with some attached units, which were 3,000, and then townhomes, which were 1,500. But the single family were 5,000 in that one.
Okay, so we've kind of set, not a precedent, I don't ever like to use that, but 5,000 is what we tentatively approved across the way. I'm not comfortable with 4,000, that's just my opinion. Anyone else?
And John,
I'm not comfortable.
go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
I'm not comfortable with the 4,000 square foot lots. I know we had the same issue, I think, off of Hartsville Pike at the Porter property, if I'm not mistaken.
I think those were over 5,000.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Certainly, go ahead, Mr. Fenton.
Thank you, sir. Given these 4,000 square foot lots, can I ask the developer, what are the price points that they're looking at here? Because we do in this community have an affordable housing crunch. Everyone on this committee knows that. And if they're maybe addressing some of that, it might give us a different viewpoint.
Well, are you, okay, can I speak? Is that all right?
Please.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
All right, sorry, won't take a long time. First of all, you know, in the world of texting, I'm getting text messages back and forth. There's basically an error in these, and that is that according to my information, we will verify this. The minimum lot width is 41 feet and the depth is 110, which actually makes them 4,800 foot lots. And then the ones along the 1 through 14 are actually larger than that. Now, having said that, let me answer the question, because I think it's very important. The price point for this product is going to be in the $250,000 to $290,000 range. I can speak for the builder in knowing for a fact that, or to my knowledge, there's no vinyl, there's nothing on the outside that it's at that price point. Well, let's figure out a way to make it less expensive. They're very much into stone and hardy plank, and I think what we would all expect. But to answer your question, we're in the 250 to 290 range, and unless my math is wrong, the smaller lots are 41 by 120, which is a 4,800 foot lot. Not that that changes or should change the concern. If it comes back and we've got to work on something, we'll work on something. So I just wanted to make sure you had correct information, that's all.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
John, this is Josh.
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned about setting a precedent in the neighborhood, and this goes back to something Bill said at the beginning of the development to the north had a different ratio of lot size to open space. So that's something that you can consider, and that would be something that differentiates that development from other developments that are proposed. That one had lot sizes as small as 5,000 square feet for single family, but it also had a larger proportion of open space. This development is providing some open space, but the ratio is different than what was proposed to the north. So we're always worried about setting that precedent. We are not comparing apples to apples. They're both fruit, but they're different types of fruit.
No, thank you for bringing that up, Josh. That's a very good point, is that the other property had a significant amount of open space. And, well, I can only we're supposed to kind of digest this information and also give the applicant some indication of how we feel about this, and I can only speak for myself, is I feel like this is too dense, too many homes packed in on small lots without much open space. I'm not very, I can't look at it very favorably as it's drawn right now. Anyone else want to weigh in, or do you want to wait?
I
a couple
agree.
weeks?
I agree.
What size do you think would be acceptable?
Josh, under the MRO zoning, what size is permitted?
I believe it's 6,000 lot size. 6,000 square feet.
I really think that's the answer, is that because there's not a significant trade-off in open space or anything, I really believe a 6,000 square foot lot.
So
anyhow, that gives some feedback to the developer, and if there's no other questions, we'll, I think we've kind of voiced some indication.
I get it. I would suggest that you'll see a change.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
sir.
Alana.
So
Alana?
you're fine. 1 through 14, what size is that, the lots in that area? Mr. Green? Or,
Sorry, I muted him. Let me
Oh.
unmute him.
okay.
They're a little bit more than 5,000 feet.
Okay. And the can't think of the word, but you reduced the buffer space between and, well, it looks like just between the houses on all of them?
Well, along that line, we were concerned that the neighbors that are already there would have a problem with a smaller set of lots. And so therefore, we went with a bigger lot. But none of you know me and we've never met, but I will say this to you all. I don't come into any municipality or any meeting with an attitude like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. I'm more interested in what works and what makes the community, not just you guys, but makes the whole community more, I don't know, a word I'm looking for. So I can tell you right now that tomorrow morning, we're going to go back and we're going to change this out. And we'll come up with a lot configuration, which will clearly drop some lots, and that is what it is, and come up with a lot configuration that you all can live with. It's just that simple, and I take no upset at it at all, because it's community, and we don't want the community to look bad. So you get the point. I don't have to go on with it.
Thank you, Mr. Green. We appreciate your working with us.
Yeah.
Seeing no other comments, we'll move on to item number 5, which is Triple Brook rezoning with preliminary master development plan. Dustin, will you please present this item?
Yes, sir. So this is a rezoning in PMDP on the west side of North Water. If you look to the top of your screen there, you can see where that's located. So this parcel is currently split zoned. The front half is zoned MRO and the back half is zoned CG, Commercial General. So the applicant wants to rezone the entire thing to MRO. The plan you see before you is a little outdated now. We had a discussion this morning with the applicant with input from the fire department and from codes. The condition of Trimble Avenue, which you see circled in red on the right of the screen, on the left of the screen, it's substandard. It's only about a car width wide, one car width wide, and it's going to be an issue if we have that kind of density going back in there. The fire department has stated that that road needs to be improved, which would fall to the developer. So with after talking again to the developer and the applicant, they are agreeing to put instead 2 single-family homes on the backside back there, because that would not require the improvements to Trimble Avenue, being since it would be single-family homes. So I'm not sure if the applicant is available or is present, but thank you.
Sorry. If we have a representative for the applicant, please state your name.
Kyle Schneider, your line's been unmuted.
Dustin, while we're waiting for Kyle, would you mind flipping back to the overall location? I can't get my bearings exactly where this is. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Got it. Yep.
Go ahead, Kyle.
This is Kyle Schneider with Prober Engineering.
Oh, yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so after the discussion with the staff this morning and discussing with the developer, the trade-off between having the quadplex and just switching to 2 single-family with improving Trimble, essentially what I think we're going to move towards is pretty much just mirroring the site now, pretty much copying the front half now onto the back, and working with staff to figure out the driveway configuration. It'll probably be something close to what we have shown, with a driveway easement in the front half of the property for the northern single-family home, what would be the northwest corner there.
So if I understand correctly, you're going to scrap this plan and come back with something else?
Yeah, amend this plan to remove the 4-unit quadplex in the back of the property and amend it with 2 single-family homes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Amend is a better word than scrap. We'll wait and see what you come back with then. Any other questions or comments on this? Or seeing none, we'll wait and see what you come back with then. Thank you. See you in a couple of weeks. We'll move on to item number 6, which is the Harsh property, a rezoning with preliminary master development plan. Jillian, will you please present this item?
Yes, next slide, please. This property is located near the intersection of Hartsville Pike and Cairo Road. It is behind that MAPCO that's right at that intersection. And it's there's an existing older home on the property, and it is directly adjacent to the cottages right to the east. This is a 35.59 acre piece of land, and they would like to rezone this property. Next slide, please. To have 3 out parcels along Hartsville Pike, they would be rezoned to PNC, which are planned neighborhood commercial, and then 104 single family residential lots to R10 PRD, which is one of our planned residential development zonings. As you can see on your screen, this does have connectivity to both Cairo Road and Hartsville Pike, as well as Cottage Drive. These lots are 6,000 square feet and there's 25% open space in the residential area. These lots are similar in size to the lots along Cottage Drive, although those lots are also attached units. We did have a conversation today with the applicant about making sure we're keeping in mind the neighboring properties and the type of architecture that they have, and especially because some of those units will be facing each other. Next slide, please. They are on discussions with the stormwater department about making sure we're taking care of stream buffers and maintaining the stormwater throughout the site. Next slide, please. And then as you can see, this is their open space that they are providing throughout. They will need to work on their buffer yards a little bit, making sure that we're providing some buffer between this property and the railroad, and along the commercial parcels to their west. Next slide, please. And then when it comes to the architecture, I did ask for some more information, perhaps incorporate a little bit more masonry, particularly along the Cottage Drive, since those do have more masonry products. And then I did ask for some conceptual architecture for the PNC lots. They don't know what those out parcels will be at this time, but just some concept, especially for the residential, some material lists, things that are permitted, not permitted. Since this is a planned residential development, we want a good idea of what this will be. So we had a good conversation with them this afternoon about giving us some more of that information. And they should have an applicant. The applicant should be on to discuss this item.
Thank you. If we have a representative for the applicant,
Yeah, this is
come online.
Tyler. This is Tyler Gray with CSDG.
Anything to add, Tyler?
Jillian hit most of it on the head. Like we said, we talked to her earlier today and followed up with Brian Ruffschneider at the engineering department. He had made a comment about the width of the railroad easement or right of way, and we cleared that up. There was a question as to whether or not it was wider than we're showing. Our surveyors found a deed that the land has been reacquired, so the correct right of way is shown. That was the really big concern, but other than that, Jillian pretty much hit it all.
Okay.
And Tyler, one last thing I forgot to mention, the existing home. I did have questions about what the intent of that existing home was.
Yeah, we saw your comment when we got them back Friday afternoon. We're following up with the landowner up there. We don't have any specific direction on them from that yet, but we will get you an answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Questions?
Joining property, is it R10 or R15?
The one to the east, for the cottages, the cottage villas.
Yes.
I believe they are R6.
Now, what about along Cairo Road? What is?
Along Cairo Road is R15.
All right, thanks.
My first question was going to be about that house that's already there that looks so pretty and nice. And thank you, Jillian, for asking about that. Also, on the back of that property as it meets Cairo Road, there's one area that's, I don't know what else to say, but swampy. So have you taken that area into consideration? It's adjacent to Cairo Road, right at the fence line.
Yeah, I haven't been out there on site personally. My boss, Jim Harrison, has driven the site, and we think that's where we're showing bio and detention and stream buffer in that corner. Is that what you're referencing?
I'm not sure if that's it or not. It's possible. I just know that when I drove by there Sunday, there was water standing in there. There's a lot of trees. It just
Ms.
looks.
Love, I don't know if you can hear me or not. This is Jim Harrison. Yeah, we have
we are protecting that area that you're talking about. It's actually part of the detention and water storage facility for the existing homes that are out there too. So we will protect that.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might interject, just to make sure everyone understands that on the other side of the railroad, all of that property is zoned IR currently, industrial restricted. So just please make sure there are buffers put in place to protect that. I think both of them can coexist. I love the fact that they put a lot of commercial available up there on Hartsville Pike. I think that's a really, good strategic plan for our community to continue to grow. Just need to ensure that everybody understands on the south side of that railroad, everything is currently zoned IR and most likely will remain that way.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fenton. I had a question to the staff. Well, two questions. Go back to the page that shows a typical lot. I can't zoom in on the page. So how wide is the lot?
I believe, and Tyler, you might need to clear this up. On the first page, it had said 52 feet, but this one was smaller, so I wasn't sure which one.
Yeah, it's 52 feet. That was just that detail. We just missed a note on our first one, but we've got that fixed.
Thank you.
Okay, that answered my question. The only other question, really out of curiosity for staff, is was there an existing PMDP on this property already? I thought we've looked at zoning this in the past. Or is this the first time a PMDP has been placed on it?
I am not familiar with one. If there was one before me, that would have been 4.5 years ago. So.
Hey, listen, my wife will tell you, don't trust my memory anymore. So. Good.
Could have very well been one, but I've not in recent memory, no.
Mr. Chairman, the stone cottages, which are adjacent to this parcel, there was a PMDP and FMDP done for those probably less than 10 years ago or so, I'd say. So it may have been something that was looked at for this area, but that PMDP did not extend to this property, but it is adjacent to it.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, we will have a review of the history of approvals, various approvals that may have occurred on this property as part of the review report.
Okay. Well, seeing none, then we'll move on to item number 7. Item number 7 is Bledsoe Springs and annexation and plan of service. Jillian, will you present this item?
Yes, and I'll do this with item number 8 as well, if that works.
Yes.
This is for Bledsoe Springs annexation and plan of service and for the rezoning and preliminary master development plan as well. Next slide, please. This is located on Hartsville Pike. You are familiar with this property. It is just east of Airport Road, adjacent to the Sunny Mead subdivision in the county. Next slide, please. In the annexation area, this does include 44.79 acres plus 2.04 acres of railroad right-of-way. This portion of Hartsville Pike has actually been annexed this last fall. So this property is now contiguous to city limits, with or without the railroad right-of-way, but I believe they have worked most of that out now. So at least half of that railroad right-of-way is included in this annexation request. Next slide, please. Go through these first couple. Next slide. Next slide. And here is the proposed layout. So you've seen similar layouts in the past. This one has a very similar road configuration, but there are only single family homes within this development. They are still indicating the R6 PRD zoning. I have made a comment about them possibly bringing that up to a larger zoning, R8 or R10, maybe R15, depending on that, just because their density doesn't need an R6 PRD zoning anymore because there's no townhomes and they have decreased the density. Again, this would go on to city council based on your recommendation, but you should be familiar with this area, and this is their new plan that they're proposing, and the applicant should be on the call.
Thank you. If we have a representative for the applicant, please state your name.
Chairman, this is Andy Leith with Greenlit Design.
Go
So,
ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, go ahead.
We do have this back on the agenda because when it was at council, the plan of service was taken, action was taken on it by council, but not the rezoning or annexation. So we had asked about getting the council to address those two items that they did not take action on last time, and was requested to come back through planning commission. We have incorporated all the comments that we received, or all the ones that from council, as far as removing townhomes, decreasing density. I do agree with Ms. Jillian, R6 is probably not appropriate, but we do have quite a bit of open space, trying to avoid that creek crossing and the impacts on that. So the minimum lot size here is 6,000 square feet, which definitely would fall under the R8, maybe the R10 category. And the outer lots, with the landscape buffer being put into open space as opposed to the lots, those are perceived to be more like R15 PRD's lots, because of, there's that extra land associated with the lots that's just not under ownership by the lot itself. So again, the intent here is to continue to provide the affordable housing, but we, in listening to the planning commission and the city council, have decreased the density and taken out the townhomes.
All right, thank you, Andy. Open the floor to questions or comments.
Andy?
Yes, ma'am.
How many homes were in the plan that we saw a few months ago versus how many now?
So that's a good question. And we started out with over 200 showing to planning commission, and when we have first submitted. And so then that got whittled down to 160, and now we're at 135 single family homes.
We still have that traffic problem there.
And we have done a traffic study that's been submitted. We did that early in the process and are showing those proposed recommendations to alleviate the traffic, which includes the turning lanes to get into and out of the subdivision.
So this is the plan we looked at previously that had townhomes across the creek backing up to the industrial center. Is that correct?
So yes, sir, you're not going to notice a big change to the plan other than the townhomes were removed and replaced with single family homes. The roadway network is essentially the same. And the open space, buffer yards, all of those are essentially the same as what you all saw previously, except without the townhomes.
Okay.
And decreased density of units count overall.
Mr. Leith, this Bill McCord, the three larger parcels that are to the south of the center portion of this property adjacent to Hartsville Pike, is that show, I see where you show a future street that would connect to at least one of those parcels to the subdivision to the north. Do you also have a street stub? I see that you have one also to the property to the west. Is it also that you would have one to across from that first stub to the property to the west that would also connect? Potentially a new street that would loop through those three parcels, or maybe it's four parcels actually.
So there are four parcels there, and we've got a mailbox kiosk that can be slidden, to the north to accommodate another right of way back to the east there when you come off that first entrance that would allow for a loop street in there, easy enough.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to there.
We can move the mailbox kiosk and show define that future right of way there, or potential future right of way.
Okay, thank you.
So Andy, I am sincere when I say that I may have this confused with another development. We've looked at so much stuff in the last year or two. But the 22 lots on the eastern edge of this development, that is the bottom part of the page, the eastern edge,
Yes, sir.
adjoining those existing triangular lots, those end wedge lots. I thought that when we talked about this project before, that was one of the things we addressed was you making those lots wider, those 22 lots wider, and decreasing your count on those lots so that they were a little bit larger to make the transition to that adjoining property. Do I have this mixed up with another property, or do y'all remember if that's what we talked about?
You remember right. We did.
Okay.
No, sir. Yes, sir, you are correct. And so we did make those lots larger previously. And to come back in with the, we also had the townhomes on the project at the time too, to help make up for the density and unit count. With this plan right here, I'm not trying to, slide it by. They did go back to the, those are 6,000 square foot lots shown over there with a 30-foot landscape buffer that is in open space. It's not included in the lot. So if you were to consider the open space or the landscape buffer that we're putting into open space, those lots would be about 7,500 square foot each, which is comparable or consistent with the R15 PRD.
Okay. Then I'll make a request of staff before our meeting in a couple of weeks, and that is, would you pull up the comments? We had a public hearing at that time. I want to know if anybody from that neighboring property had comments in the public hearing. If they didn't, then that's not that big an issue, I suppose, to them. But if they did, I'm not going to trust my memory to remember what people said.
And this item will have another public hearing, so people will have a chance to talk in 2 weeks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you for taking those townhouses out. I still feel worried about that traffic. I don't know if the traffic study was done while we were not having school. I just have seen videos of the traffic through there in the mornings, especially, and in the afternoon. And it just seems like it's in a bad location because of the fact that coming from out of town, you don't really see the traffic that's backed up, and people have told me that they lots of times almost or do hit the people that are sitting there waiting. So that traffic is a big concern of mine. I'm glad there's no townhouses.
And with the left-hand turning movement that we have to provide, that will get people out of the travel lane waiting to turn into the subdivision. That does not exist right now. So people stop in the middle of the road to make the turning movements. And this is providing that stacking and turning there so that they won't be in the travel lane anymore, waiting to turn into the subdivision.
Andy, does your traffic study indicate the level of service of these intersections that will tie into this subdivision?
Yes, sir. All that's in there. And of course, I don't have it off the top of my memory, but that was submitted to engineering. So that's in Nick's hands, and I can try to look here quickly to see if I can pull that up for you.
Okay. Well, that's I don't think we necessarily need to dwell on it now, but we will want to address that at the actual meeting.
Any other questions or concerns or comments? Well, seeing none, then I think that's our last item. No, I'm sorry. We have item number 9, Shops at Payne, a revised final master development plan. Sharon, will you present this item, please?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me again?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. This is the Shops at Payne. We saw this we've seen it several times. They've actually got 4 lots. The Shops at Payne their original master development plan was approved. The other 3 lots to the west of them they were approved as a master development plan. And then it came up that we needed to move a lot line just a little bit to get the plat to match. So now the plat will match both of the FMDPs, and it will all just jive, you know. It won't look like somebody platted it and didn't think anything about the plans that were already in place. We've got it that way now. We've got it moved just a little bit.
All right, thank you, Sharon. Do we have a representative for the applicant present?
Chairman Purrier, this is Andy. I know that I'm not with Gresham Smith, but we did the adjacent site for the same developer, GBT, and since I was here already, they just asked me to take care of it for them.
Okay. Do you have anything to add, or did she cover it pretty well?
No, sir. This is just a formality and paperwork to clean up the two projects and make them work together with the plat that was submitted last month or the month before.
Okay. Questions or comments from commissioners? This appears to be pretty procedural. So, well, seeing none, then we'll move along. And to other business. Any other business?
Mr. Chair, I wanted to bring your attention that we are moving forward with proposing a resolution that you will have on your agenda in 2 weeks to gain support of the Planning Commission to dissolve the Regional Planning Commission and establish a Municipal Planning Commission. It'll be a recommendation to the City Council. And then we'll be asking the City Council to also adopt a similar resolution asking the Local Government Planning Advisory Committee of the Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development to change the formal status from a regional planning commission with a planning region to a municipal planning commission with no planning region. So, and then City Council will also later be reviewing an ordinance that will change our code, essentially doing the same thing, which will be effective upon the Local Government Planning Advisory Committee's approval of dissolving the planning region. So we will be getting out of the regional planning business around Gallatin and just focus on what we have in the city. And of course, at what we would annex. Now, that wouldn't preclude us or prevent us from being able to prepare a master planning document like our Plan Gallatin that includes areas outside the city, though. We'd still have that as a guiding tool for giving the council and the planning commission direction on how to consider zoning changes on properties that are outside the city.
Okay. And this removes in short, this removes our jurisdiction over the planning region entirely, right?
Well, much of it is removed already by action of the county. The county last summer adopted a county-wide zoning resolution. So they now have zoning control on areas within our planning region. All we have is subdivision regulation control. And as you can imagine, trying to apply our subdivision regulations to the county zoning ordinance creates a lot of confusion, not only for city staff, but certainly for county staff, and more importantly, for owners and or applicants wanting to develop properties in the planning region.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Any other business? Well, seeing none, then we'll see everybody back in a couple of weeks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.